Let's see here. All right, I got 80 pictures on this camera. I set this back here a couple of weeks ago. There's no food plots established in the pasture yet, and there's no bait back in here. Just this natural travel corridor I found when I was looking for a place to set up the camera. It's coming up on this ridge here, and there's a bench going across to the next ridge top. On either side, it's very steep and drops off really quickly. But of course, when I found this bench, it has a whole bunch of what looked to be fresh late season rubs from the second rut back here. So I figured it was a natural travel corridor, and then I brought the camera back here and set it up. It's got 80 pictures. I can't wait to see what's coming through here. I also have a camera set up down the pasture, about a quarter of a mile down over that way. So let's go down, retrieve that one, see what we got. Okay, here's the second camera. I set this one back in here when I put the other one up. This is in a low spot on the edge of the pasture. It's got some white oaks where the leaves have been rooted up, dug around in. Don't know what's doing that, so I want to find out what's doing that. I originally noticed this spot because it comes out behind this hill. You can't see it from up at the house, and the hogs had been rooting out in the pasture real bad, and it looks like they had stopped for a while, but it looks like they've been back. A lot of ground tore up when I walked across here to get the camera, and I'm gonna have to do something about that. I may end up having to trap them and get a few of them out of here, because it's going to be detrimental to trying to grow food plots when I do try to improve this area for game. But these cameras were set up on natural travel roads. When I came down here to check out the rooting, I did find a scrape and a few rubs back in November, so I figured this would be a good spot for a camera. But you don't really need salt, you don't really need bait. If you take the time to look at natural game travel patterns, like that bench back there that comes across the deep gully, or even this low spot where you see some game activity, you can get a good idea of what's going on your property without bait and salt. I mean, I do plan to improve this area. I'll probably put a mineral lick back in here too, to encourage game to travel through here. But for right now, this is just giving me an idea of what's going on. It's giving me an idea of good places to put those property improvements. Now, I can't wait to get back to the house and see what I got on these cameras after 2 weeks. I'm excited about that. But this isn't the only scouting I'm going to be doing. I'm going to head out here and check out some of the nearby public land. So I'm back in here on some nearby public land. Drove out here. It's the closest public land to the house, and I figured I'd start here. And being new to this area, the first thing I want to find are acceptable pull-offs and places to park. So as I drove back in the access road, I took it kind of slow, and I was looking for pull-offs and gates and trails I could hike, and look for sign, and maybe come back to and listen for gobbling in the morning in a few days. Season's still 3 weeks off. So I passed the first few gates, figuring those were most likely to get other pressure. Folks don't like to drive way back in on the area, and I got back in here pretty far, and I found this spot. So I pulled up here, and I'm going to get out and do a little hiking and see if I can't locate some turkey sign. So I started out, I wanted to put 20 minutes hike between me and the truck, because a lot of guys will drive along and just pull off at pull-offs and owl hoot or crow call, see if they can't get a gobble, and if they don't hear anything, they'll move on. I've actually been out in the mountains and heard trucks coming when I was listening to a bird gobbling. Truck would drive up, pull in behind my truck, owl hoot, make some noise, slam car door or something. The turkey would not gobble at that. The truck moved off. Me and Michael heard it drive away down the gravel. And about 5 minutes later, that bird started gobbling again. He had been accustomed to danger being associated with loud noise coming from the road and wouldn't gobble at that stuff. True story. But anyway, I started down the road, the little access road, and I was kind of looking in the mud for sign. I haven't seen any turkey sign as of yet. But after I got to about 20 minutes down into the road, I started seeing deer tracks. Never too early to start looking for deer. It might only be the end of March, but it always helps to find a few deer tracks too for next fall. But as I got down there, I came across a small meadow. So I decided to move over into the adjacent patch of pine trees to see if I saw any droppings or scratch, maybe find a roost site. And I came across the hill. I found this behind me. I mean, look at this. It's a huge meadow. I'm going to get down in there and look for sign. We're a little farther away from the road now. It might be a little more likely to find turkey sign down in here. I know I'm getting a late start this year. There's no way around it. I'm real busy. Now, as it stands, I'm only going to get a week, maybe 10 days to hunt turkeys down here this year before I got to go right back up to Maryland again. But I'm definitely anxious to get it in the woods. I hope I can find some turkey sign down this meadow.
This is as fresh as scratch gets right here. Those birds were heading up over top of the hill, and I bet they're really close. I might even spot them. This is a good sign.
All right, so I found some promising sign back in here. A lot of scratch, and I was able to determine the lay of the land. It's a little later in the season than I like to get started scouting, but it's definitely not too late for a general scouting trip. You want to do that before the foliage gets on the trees, so you can see the lay of the land. I've already picked out a high spot, and that's all that remains with that sign back in here. I'm definitely going to get in here before the sun comes up and find a piece of high ground, give it a listen to see if I can't hear some birds pinpoint where they're roosting at before the season opens. I'm going to spend the rest of today driving this access road looking for more pull-offs where I can park, because when the season opens, I'm not real familiar with the pressure this area gets, and if I get here and there's a truck already parked up at the trailhead here, I'm going to want someplace else I can head to and try to find a spot where nobody else is hunting that morning. I hope you'll stick with us here. We're down here. We're going to be exploring the hunting and fishing opportunities here in Tennessee. We got a lot of new water we've never fished before to cover. It's going to be an interesting spring. See what we can get into down here. And we'll be trying to offer tips that have helped us out on unfamiliar terrain, catching fish and hunting game as the spring wears on. So I'm going to get going, do some more scouting, and I'll leave you with a few of the photos and videos I got off of those trail cameras I pulled back at the beginning of that video. Hope to see you again real soon.
You